My mother hates me for telling my sister the truth. My mother hates me for telling my sister the truth. I want to preface this with an apology if it's all over the place. There's so much information to sort through and decide what does or doesn't have a place here. I will reply to what I can and make edits for any common questions/remarks. So a little, or a lot, of background is required for this to make any sense. Many years ago, my mother had an affair that completely blew up our family. I suppose the affair was the lesser issue, but rather all her other actions that screwed many of us over. For context, I was 10. My younger sister was 7/8, and my older sister almost 14, all female. To start with, in the years prior, my mother had taken out tens of thousands of dollars in loans and credit cards in my dad's name, of which he was never aware of. Ignorant, absolutely, but she had always managed all finances while a sachem. She also managed to make 5 years of GST payments disappear from the business account, for which Dad was then charged with 2 charges, around $100K in fines, of tax evasion on top of the missed payments. All 3 of us kids had a bank account set up from young, which our dad had added to so that we would be in a positive position when we were older, for university or a house deposit, whatever it was that we desired. Being saving-orientated even as a kid, I had chosen to put 100% of any money earned through chores or gifted for birthdays into the account. At 14, when I began working and gained access to net banking, I realized Mum had drained my account. Less $50? Only my account. If that wasn't enough, her own mother had stored a sum of money in my parents' safe that was intended for her funeral. My mother took every last dollar and refused to pay it back. My dad paid it back with interest when he found out. Due to the tricky financial situation, Dad had to travel for work, wherever the trade was needed in that moment. Typically, he would leave in the early hours of Monday morning and return on Saturday afternoon. In this time, my mother felt it appropriate to leave us at home so that she could visit the affair partner, usually not coming home for days at a time. Nobody knew. We had no carers or access to resource as we lived a 20-minute drive to the nearest town stores. This went on for a few weeks before my mum, sometimes, contacted our cousin to come stay with us while she was out. To this day, I believe that only happened because the other guy figured out what was going on. Due to timing of people coming and going, our dad didn't know any of this happened to until months later. I kept quiet because I knew he couldn't afford to stay home. All this said, I stepped into the parent role. My little sister was kept in the dark as much as possible. I did my best to maintain her same routine so that she felt as little impact as possible. Obviously, she suffered, to the point of requesting to sleep in my bed every night for a year. But it seems that she doesn't remember any of the shitty things that happened back then. My older sister was very mentally ill, where I had to medicate her each morning and conduct daily body and room checks. Those who know will get what I'm suggesting. To the best of my knowledge, our little sister never saw any of this. I didn't and don't believe those are subjects such little eyes should have to witness. The older sister was also really ashamed, and has asked to keep this situation away from the youngest, as she had a habit of speaking without realizing or knowing the potential damage. As much as I hated the responsibility, cooking, cleaning, hiding the family's dirty laundry, I was also very aware that what was happening wasn't okay. That if I couldn't keep it together, and matters hidden, that authorities would become involved. Those times were scary, but the idea of not having access to and control over what happened to me or my siblings felt like it would be worse. These are only the first things that come to mind, but the details aren't exactly the point of this post. Anyway, I guess my younger sister's soon-to-be in-laws have asked some questions, of which my sister doesn't have the ability to answer. I would suggest she asked our mother first, but the queries would have been shut down. I know she feels guilty, knows that she screwed up, and frankly, I hope she never forgives herself for it. So, little sister came to me, and for the first time in 15 years, I was willing to give her the answers she was looking for. I've always been vague, not wanting to cause her pain, but I've started feeling guilty in recent years for not treating her as enough of an adult to make her own decisions. After a loot of therapy, I have realized that I don't have to be their parent anymore. My sister cried, I cried, and she apologized for assumption made, and words said, because she didn't know any better in the past, she needs and wants time to process a whole lot of information that's entirely new to her, that has quite literally flipped the way she has perceived many people over the years. Anywho, She isn't speaking to our mother right now, and that's where it becomes my problem, I guess. She called me, blowing up, claiming I've ruined her relationship with her daughter, that I'm out to get her, resentful without cause and need to stop living in the past. But I don't see how me being honest about her actions is my fault. Could I have filtered details? Maybe. But I don't understand why I should have to hold on to the pressure of keeping her shortcomings secret. Maybe it's time to grow up and pay for the consequences of your actions. Edit to add genders. In the comments. She's never taken any responsibility, only made excuses. My favorite was the one for her leaving us to care for ourselves. You all made it clear you didn't want to spend time with me. I feel like she thought she'd gotten away with it at this point, and that's why she's mad. To be honest, I only told my sister for selfish reasons. We've only in recent years developed a close relationship, and I didn't want to lose that if she became mad at me for not telling her anything. I know there was always a layer of resentment towards me for thinking I was the boss of her. She needed somebody to be mad at, and at the time I was okay with that person being me. Children, and young adults, get mad at the people it is safe to be mad at. It sounds like you took that anger to give her a safe space and a safe person. Now that she's of an age where she is old enough to hear the truth, where it's safe for her to be angry at your mom without risking breaking your family apart, you've given her the truth. That's quite heroic. I hope you find the peace and space to have a life of your own, free from your mother's negligent abuse. You've certainly more than earned it. I never considered the aspect of somebody needing to be safe to be mad at them. That puts a lot into perspective. Thank you. TBH, my mother has no influence over my life or feelings. I stopped regarding her as a parental figure long ago, so her opinion of me, someone she really had no part in molding, means nothing. Don't get me wrong, I do not place the blame for all wrongdoings exclusively on her, but she was certainly the catalyst for most of the difficult seasons. Every action or inaction I've ever made has been a decision to protect the other people she hurt, which only served to protect her from backlash, and I think it's time she faced up. In some ways, I think caring for them was all that kept me sane. I was so busy and exhausted by the day-to-day motions that I didn't have time to reflect on my own feelings or the situation as a whole. Full survival mode, I suppose. I appreciate that a lot. I tried my best, in hindsight, doing for them what I probably needed myself. She was cut out for a very long time. The stolen money, from myself, was the absolute last straw, which resulted in me going no contact for about 5 years. Part of me thinks she was glad for that too, because I'd threatened to press charges against the mystery thief if she didn't fess up. But, because of my sister's age, and her eventually choosing to live with Mum, I felt compelled to be civil because I missed my sister. I live 4 hours from my hometown now, so maintaining a healthy distance is really quite easy. He's doing really good, but of course had a long time to pick up the pieces. In his 50s, and still working 6 days a week. Not because he needs to, but because he's never known anything else. His parents were immigrants, so it was quite literally bred into him. She's 22 now and living with her partner. She and Dad never had a strained relationship, but after years of living exclusively with him, decided to spend the next few years with Mum. Never any bad blood on either end where she's concerned. They did divorce long ago, and as much as I find it strange, they still have a relatively positive relationship. The money, literally who knows. Never saw a cent returned though. Dad didn't know she stole from me until 6-ish years ago. Early on he was struggling and I knew he'd try to put the money back if I told him. He knew something had happened for me not to talk to my mother all those years, but I hadn't told him, and she sure wasn't going to. Recently, my husband and I built our first home, and he was insistent on cutting trade swaps to save money, which I strongly feel was his way of repaying her debt to me. He's a great dad, has his flaws as every human does, but every step he's taken has been with the intention of his kids not having to want for things as he and his siblings did. First update. And now she's resorted to posting on Facebook, claiming that one of her ingrates are spreading rumors to ruin her. Jesus fucking Christ, I don't even have Facebook, so not really sure what she's trying to achieve in doing this. But an old family friend called my dad to ask what's going on. Also, I'm speaking to nobody about the situation. I don't even live in our hometown. If nothing else, she has nothing for me to ruin. No way I'm engaging or sinking to her level, but seriously? What a waste of a person. Now the parents are fighting. She's fighting with her current husband, and shit is all around just getting messy. She thinks she's making people feel sorry for her, but mostly she just looks pathetic if you ask me. Update 2. Turns out I really don't need to sync to her level. That's been taken care of while I sleep. I guess Mum's privacy settings aren't great, and that's working against her. The Vague Woe is Me post has been shared by 3 family members / friends with a single, but far less cryptic, one-liner. I'm told, "Oh, you mean the ingrate that raised your kids?" Should she be more grateful for your affair, or the complete and utter abandonment of your 3 kids? And my absolute favorite, from my granny, "Rot in hell, you lying thieving bitch."